good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
They are, Robert. This portion of the show is supported by a Native American community clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
I love that tagline. I really do. And we're here with Dr. Stately, and we're going to talk a few things. And I know Dr. Stately, really thanks a lot. You are the CEO and president of Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. And what a great tagline. And I appreciate you coming on. I know you're a little under the weather, and I don't know if you'd like to talk a little bit about that, but it's good to see you. And it looks like you've bounced back pretty well.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the well wishes. Yeah, I was sick with COVID, I think, for probably the last week, maybe 10 days. The worst was like the first 2 or 3 days. Just kind of like came out of nowhere. Well, actually, it didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of somewhere, but no one really knows because we're walking around these days, all of us pretty much. Sort of like not always knowing if the person next to us is sick or the person across the room is sick, or, you know, if you have allergies or if you have this or that. One of the reasons why I think we have to get, it just reminded me, myself personally, to sort of like do a better job of trying to, you know, track my symptoms. You know, I think you and probably all your listeners know this about me too, is what like I'm allergic to dogs and cats, and I live with 2 dogs and 2 cats. 2 of those animals sleep in my bed, like right next to my head. So hard for me to know if I have allergies or if I'm having like, you know, a little bit about a COVID. So, you know, but this last variant, I think, is really quite stealthy. They say it's one of the more easier ones to get. And, you know, I forget the name of it. Well, people are calling it Eras, which is odd because I think that's also Taylor Swift's tour. So you got to be careful, like, you know, what you're talking about here. Like I caught a little bit of Eras.
Swiftie. Wow, I didn't know you were a Swiftie. Hey,
I'm a big Swiftie fan, by the way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like, you know, her little antics and stuff like that, but I like her. I liked her last album. I've been listening to it on and on, and I like some of her older stuff. So when I'm out walking the dogs in the middle of the night, and I only do it in the middle of the night, I don't know why, but probably because I like to sing too. So I got my headphones in and I'm walking the dogs and I'm singing some Taylor Swift tunes or some Roseanne Cash or
Buffy St. Marie. I hear you do a good Buffy St.
Marie. You know, not so much the Buffy St. Marie thing because, you know, that requires an extra hand to do properly.
Whoa. Hey, so back to COVID. I mean, what a difference, I believe, and you can tell our audience and me, having the vaccine and
oh God, like yeah, the night and day difference. Like, I mean, I didn't feel. So my first bout of COVID was in November, Thanksgiving week, actually, November of 2020. It's before we got the vaccine. Vaccine rolled out, I think, a month later on New Year's Eve in 2020. And I ended up getting sick. I went to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a week. First 3 days in the hospital were really scary. I thought like I wasn't going to turn, you know, and but I think this conversation is kind of enlightening because I think speaks to like how much we sort of like have shifted in 3 years, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and where we're at as a society and where we're at as human beings, how far away we are and how self-assured we are and a few other things. Like that's the nature of sort of like, you know, these things. We don't pay attention to them so much. We pay attention to the thing that's burning on our front doorstep, right? And so, which is what we should do. But I think we also have to try to work harder to remind one another to do things like take better care of each other. I got COVID the second time a week ago Friday. I think probably from, there are any number of things. I was at a couple different bigger events where I was gathering with folks. One of them was a work event. There was another thing that I had been to that week, also in close proximity with a few other people. And one who's actually, I knew wasn't feeling well, told me they weren't feeling well.
Wow.
But I think the other thing I was going to say was what was different from that experience to this recent experience is the length of time I was sick. I was sick for like where I really didn't feel very well at all for about maybe 2-3 days max. You know, I drove to work on Friday morning. I got there at 8:30, 8:35. By 9 o'clock, I was not feeling well. I was like, I was like, there's something wrong. I just don't. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to the bathroom, maybe get a cup of coffee and see, you know, and myself, I'm kind of the person who like, I start to feel a little bit unwell, and rather than like go home, which is what I ended up doing. Actually, I usually power through. That's kind of like my MO, that I just sort of like, well, you know, I'll get some sleep tonight and I'll be fine. It was a Friday. Right. And I was like, literally like within a half an hour, my legs started aching, my hips were aching. And when I get sick, like with the flu, it's usually starts in my legs and my hips. Like I feel it in my joints first, anywhere else.
Wow.
So I had this experience about 5 years ago before COVID, where I ended up getting the flu, and I was actually at a baby shower of my friend, my niece at MIWC in their, you know, in their social space. And I hit a brick wall. I was like right in the middle of like, I don't know, you know, the thing with the balloons where you're trying to guess. I don't know what the hell I was doing anyway. But I was like, all of a sudden I was like, I hit a brick wall, and I was like, and I had no energy, and I was like, what is going on? And I sat down and I started feeling, I was like, walked up to my niece. I didn't even touch her because she's pregnant. I was like, I got to leave. I'm sick. I know that there's something wrong. So drove home. It was the middle of the snowstorm too, all the way from Twin Cities to Shakopee, which is where I was living at the time. In the middle of a snowstorm, like about to feel like I was dying. And that was about how I felt on Friday. Like I didn't feel like I was going to die. My everything in my entire body hurt. Like I couldn't get comfortable on my bed. I couldn't fall asleep. I drank, you know, half a bottle of NyQuil. I didn't lose my sobriety because it was for medicinal purposes. And I just like, oh, that first day was horrible. And the second day was a little bit worse. High fever, shaking. At one point I was shaking so bad I couldn't even like pour a cup of tea. And I was like, so like I went into my room, stayed in my room, like, you know, didn't come out unless I was wearing a mask to be around my family, and, you know, and I just minimized as much exposure to other people as I could until I started to feel demonstrably better. So I was in there about 3 days.
Wow.
So it was bad, but you know, the benefit was I caught up on 2 seasons of Res Dogs, finished the whole entire thing.
Right on. Good. That is a good thing. And then, you know, when you take NyQuil, I think it isn't a relapse unless you start singing karaoke. If you start singing karaoke,
yeah, no, I was too sick to sing karaoke.
See, you worked in a good way.
I was right on the line though, you know, I was going to dance to the other side really easy.
Yeah. I got just a quick question. So I'm assuming, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there are people still passing away from COVID.
There are actually. Vaccinated. And actually, one of the things that's an important thing for us to talk about here is that still to this day, 3 years post-pandemic, Native Americans are the most impacted group. We are more likely to be hospitalized. We are more likely to be severely hospitalized and end up in the ICU. And we are the most likely to die per capita. So
well,
let's not forget that.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about that in the next segment. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, CEO and president of Native American Community Clinic, and telling his own story, which really helps us learn about this disease and what's going on in the Native community health-wise. So thank you, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
True North Tree Care reminds us that ample blood supplies can never be assumed. It's healthy donors that make the difference. Don't pass the buck and give blood today. This message was courtesy of the folks who care at True North Tree Care, who say, our area is a great place to live, work, shop, and raise our families, and they're doing their part to keep it that way. That's True North Tree Care at 12800 Whitewater Drive in Minnetonka, where they're always concerned for the safety and welfare of our community. That's True North Tree Care.
I love my Toyota vehicles, so when I have to get service done, there's only one place I go, Rudy Luther Toyota. They know Toyotas inside and out. It starts with them checking your alignment and tire treads with their Hunter Quick Check Drive Inspection Service. Oil changes, tires, batteries, wipers, no matter what you need done, they can help you with reliable Toyota parts and the best service team in Minnesota. Check out their website, rudyluthertoyota.com, for service and parts specials just for Toyota vehicles. Get your Toyota serviced at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
2023 is here, and you can make it the year of the Eagle with the National Eagle Center. You and your family can enjoy exciting Eagle experiences, including field trips, private habitat tours, and exclusive behind-the-scenes tours. Meet live eagles up close, view bald eagles and golden eagles in the wild, and receive personal one-on-one education with dedicated and knowledgeable eagle experts as you journey into the world of eagles like never before. Learn more and plan your unforgettable Eagle experience today at nationaleaglecenter.org/experiences.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Is your home ready for the holidays? Be honest, how does your carpet look and smell right now? Okay, maybe you have a carpet disaster on your hands, but that's why you should call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res. Some people hire a deal of the day carpet cleaner to save a little money, but trust shouldn't come that easily. Don't DIY it. Call Zero Res because you know it's safe and effective. That's why this month you can get 3 rooms Zero Resified starting at just $149 and take $75 off when you get your air ducts Zero Res clean. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online to ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Spell it forward or backward, it's the same. Zero Res. Refresh, restore, and protect your investment. Call Zero Res to clean your business the right way so your floors and surfaces stay cleaner longer without the harmful chemicals the other guys use.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is supported by Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. Hey, Native Roots Radio will be doing a live show at 1 p.m. from the Minnesota History Center with Native American initiatives on Saturday, October 21st from 11 to 2 for the opening of their new exhibit, Our Stories.
Hey, we're excited too. We'll be down there. We're going to be going an hour commercial free, and we're going to be grabbing people and having them come on and talk about the exhibit. And I hear rumors Dr. Stately might be there too, so we might have to bring him a free T-shirt or something to come on, and because he's a busy guy. But hey, welcome back, Dr. Stately.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I got a quick question. We were talking about COVID and kind of, and I asked you a question about people are still passing away over it, and you mentioned a big fact that Native Americans are really in the forefront of this deadly disease still. And I wanted to ask you, what is different now, per se, to the days of when the vaccine first came out and there was lines of people around the block trying to get a vaccine?
Yeah, I think that there's a number of things that have happened. One is that, back in when we first rolled out the vaccine in 2020 and early 2021, there was a tremendous amount of sort of incentivizing that was happening for people to get their vaccines, in a number of areas, especially with like high risk people. So, like the elders, people who are 65 and older, or in Indian country, I think we sort of set the bar at like 50 or 55. People getting their vaccine first, and then frontline workers and those kinds of folks, fire rescue, medical people, those kinds of things, people who are in the service industry. There was a lot of effort, teachers, a lot of people, a lot of effort put into starting getting the people who are on the front lines and the most high at risk to get vaccinated, which was, a big part of that. And, you could go someplace and get a vaccine and get like a $50 gift card, which is like, just not what we're doing anymore. It's like, and we had these big, huge vaccination stations all over the place. Remember, you could go down to the armory, you could go to the airport, 24 hours practically, and get a vaccine, get a test. We just don't have those things anymore and a big part of the reason we don't have that is like, for the most part, at least here in the United States, a number of other developed countries, it's kind of under control. I mean, under control in the sense like, we've been able to identify it. We have the technology to identify it. We have the technology to treat it. It's a lot like, it went from being a global wide pandemic to being like in certain communities in certain countries, specifically developed countries that have a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure. It's become a lot more of an endemic, which is like what the flu is or what your seasonal cold is or a few other things. It's like it comes around every year, it comes around frequently. You're going to get it, but you're likely not to die from it unless you're at high risk. Older people are at high risk from dying from the flu, right? The garden variety flu. They're at risk for dying from, as are young babies, which is the reasons why we really encourage, you to get those vaccines for your children when you're really young. Get those vaccines for older people when they're older and they have less immunity. Your immunity as a function of your age kind of hits a curve like in your 30s, 40s, and in the 50s start to slide down. And by the end of your life, you have the kind of like, there really is like, they say like, when you're older, you're kind of becoming like an infant again. You're kind of like becoming a little more feeble and a little less able to do things for yourself. Well, that's how your immunity works as well. And so doing those things is really important. And we just don't, we're so far, we're 3 years from that process. And so it also doesn't feel as emergent to us. Before it felt like a fire burning on your front doorstep, right? Now it feels like, I can see the smoke over there, but, it's far away from me, so I'm not going to worry about it yet,
Yeah, well, Ho Chunk did a really good job. I drove to Black River Falls, and that was before I was an elder. I was 59, and 60 is, I guess, a baby elder for Ho Chunk. And wow, they were running it like a well-oiled machine. I remember the governor was there and a lieutenant governor of Wisconsin seeing how Ho Chunk was doing it. It was amazing.
We did a great job vaccinating our people all across Turtle Island in many tribal communities. And in fact, actually, one of the things I remember reading in like late 2021, early 2022, was just how remarkable of a job Indian country did in terms of vaccinating their communities, right? In fact, so many tribal communities did such a great job, better job than like the public health system, their local public health system, or even their state public health system, right? And so what we ended up seeing was a lot of tribes, mine included, vaccinated the people around them. When they were done vaccinating their own people, they took care of their relatives and their neighbors next door to them. They're non-Indigenous, which is one of our values, right? We take care of everybody. we're related to everyone, kind of thing. And so that was remarkable. And I think one of the things that I just think we've sort of kind of have relaxed a little bit about it. So, you know, we don't see the body stacking up on New York Times and the news. We don't see people in, you know, so like it doesn't feel as emergent and it doesn't feel as critical. But I think one of the things I would say specifically in Indian country is we can do a better job of vaccinating our kids and our more vulnerable people. We just have to try to do a reminder of that. It is hard though. It's hard to accomplish that in this day and age where there's not vaccination centers everywhere. Right. Like if you have to go to the doctor, you know, you have to pull into NACC, or if you're up north and you got to go to Sanford, or you got to got to drive 50 miles to go get. It's like you're just not gonna get that accomplished as well. So it requires us in our communities to think strategically about how we're going to accomplish that differently and better.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm thinking, I'm glad we're talking about it, you and I, because I'm thinking I'm going to New York here in a week, and I've heard so many people get COVID from traveling. So I need to get my booster immediately. Our Ho Chunk Nation during General Council was just a few days late of having the shot for COVID, but they did give out flu shots, and I got one of those, and I got a free
t-shirt. Wear a mask on the plane if you can. I don't know if I know that there was some research that was done that shows like the airplanes have been updated with really great ventilation systems now. That was something that was accomplished in 2021, 22. But like, you know, what's not ventilated very well is that little thing that you gotta like that the
walk through.
Yeah, the walkway from the terminal to the plane, which is you know, like you're lined up like, you know, sheep in there breathing each other's air. So like if you wear a mask in there for sure. And close your eyes.
I definitely will. And you know, for some reason I did not get COVID, and I was in LAX, and you know how that airport is. That's like shoulder to
like God, it's like Mexico City in there.
Yeah.
Not because of the Latino, but just the pack. You're just like packed in. I haven't been to LAX in like 15 years, maybe 14 years.
Well, from now on,
when I fly to California, I go into Orange County and I'm in a car. It's faster. And it's sometimes
and
less expensive.
More bougie too, I think. A little more.
Last time I went there, I saw Pamela Lee Anderson.
Oh wow, she was bougie too.
Well, I saw, you know, the first part of her, and then I saw the rest of her later. No, I'm just kidding.
Jeez. So we've been talking about her big blonde hair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very odd.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's really good advice, and I think that's another good reason why we're bringing this up again too. Is that I'm thinking about it more. It's out of sight, out of mind. Like you said, it's not in the news. People aren't being packed in freezers now, but there's still people passing away.
Yeah, there are people still dying. There's still like, you know, there's like, I think the last time I checked, which is probably about a week or two ago, I forget for what reason, but I was reviewing some articles on it and updates on it. But to this day, still, there's about between 10 and 20 people a day in the United States dying. Which is way less than hundreds, right? Or thousands. So that's good, really good. But 10 people a day, that's quite a bit. So that's 3,000, 4,000 people a year.
Yeah.
It's not insignificant, you know. It still is up there with other things like certain cancers and other kinds of conditions that they're taking people's lives more frequently. So.
Well, Dr. Stately, am I assuming, again, I'm not a doctor and Wendy's not on right now, but I'm assuming that this variance could change too, in a sense of become more deadly if we're not keeping track of it. And I'm also assuming if we would have took care of this in the very beginning and got everyone vaccinated, we wouldn't be dealing with all these variances.
Well, I mean, I think it's possible. It's just not probable, right?
Okay.
And so like this virus, like a lot of viruses, is what we would call a smart virus, right? So I was thinking about like, I'm not sure if it's going to end up being something like HIV, where it's just a pandemic or an epidemic that sort of like impacts, countries that are poorer, that have less infrastructure and things like that. It's likely that will be the case, right? So it'll be around for a while because we just don't have, it's actually more about political will, I think, than less about money. We are one of the wealthiest nations on the planet. We can do
Right.
practically anything. It's about like what we set our will to do.
Exactly. That's a great point. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about that. That's an excellent point about a lot of things that happened during COVID that should be happening now. And that's a really interesting point. Hey, we're here with Dr. Stately, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Getting bus and train information in your language just got easier. Customers who call Metro Transit at 612-373-3333 are able to select language options at the start of the call. Access Next Trip, their automated real-time schedule information tool, and other Metro Transit assistance by calling 612-373-3333. For more information about other transit informational tools, visit metrotransit.org/tools. Be a vaccinative. As the fall season continues, new COVID-19 variants threaten the health of not just you, but our elders as well. These new variants might even evade previous vaccines. That's why it's important to stay up to date. The newly authorized vaccines target current variants effectively and are FDA approved for ages 6 months and older. But there is an important note. These are the first COVID vaccines to be commercialized, which means there may be costs associated with them. Speak with your health insurer about your coverage before scheduling an appointment to avoid a surprise bill. For those without health insurance, help is available. Ask your health clinic about options or visit vaccines.gov for free locations. Getting vaccinated protects you from severe disease. Don't put yourself or elders at risk. So be a vaccinative and protect our community. You can visit vaccines.gov for free vaccine locations.
This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is supported by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Call or text 1-844-762-8483. That's 1-844-7-NATIVE.
That's a great organization, and really love partnering with them. And we always talk about this, is that we've kind of started at the same time, Native Roots Radio and Strong Hearts, and they've really grown in the last 6-7 years. It's an amazing service that they do, and they're really out there in a good way. Hey, we're back with Dr. Stately. And Doctor, before we had to take that break, you were mentioning a really good thing that I forget about is how the will of the government and to able to find money at the time of a crisis and not put the whole country into bankruptcy. And, we're all living in boxes now, that we get, the scare tactic of us if we spend anything on social issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is that this has been the conundrum, I think, since the birth of the nation, which is like, there's a small number of people who want to hold on to their wealth. This is the issue that was related specifically to like slavery, right? The big social issue of the 18th century, 19th century. Is the fascination we have in this nation with, like, wealth building and holding on to wealth, like holding on to, ridiculous amounts of money. You know, Elon Musk is a really good example of that. Like, his his ridiculous fascination with, like, just making more and more money and not really caring too much about, like, human beings. Um, like, I don't think that he wants to sort of like discover anything in, like, Mars or wherever the hell he's going next. He's interested in making money. Like, um, people in our society talk about things like, water on the dark side of the moon, and it's not about, like, oh, well, this could help save the human race because we've already damaged this planet. The 5 or 6 people that are talking about this are all talking about, like, who gets to claim it and who gets to the right to sort of mine it, and then
Yeah, exactly. And we just lost Dr. Stately for a minute, Haley, but one of the
Mhm.
things, it's amazing, I always say if we could get a one less B-1 bomber, we
Right.
could we
yeah,
could definitely, feed the country, feed the world.
we have enough wealth in this nation, if not the world, to end homelessness today if we wanted to. Like, if we had the will to do it, right?
Mhm.
It's not about do we have the money? It's not about any of these other things. It's about, like, do we it's the perspective this nation has.
Yeah,
But we don't recognize that some people actually don't even have boots. They don't, not necessarily bootstraps. They don't even have boots,
right.
right? And
Oh, we're losing you, Dr. Stately. It
okay,
you know, yeah, like you were saying, I'm sorry, we're losing you a little bit here. You mentioned, you cut out, but I think what you were talking about is people want us to, get our bootstraps up, and, like you were saying, a lot of people don't even have boots, and what's interesting too is there's, like, these TV shows called Hoarders, and that's exactly
mhm.
what rich people are doing is hoarding money, and, I mean, we think about the pandemic and how, toilet paper and paper towels were nowhere to be seen. People were
Oh my God, yeah,
with means were
yeah,
hoarding this.
yeah. You know what's really interesting about that experience? I remember feeling this way specifically because I remember I walked like 3 days or 4 days, I think, into the pandemic. I walked into a Target and there was, like, nothing on the shelf. And
Right.
I was like, "What?" I was
Yeah,
like, there's no paper towels, there's no toilet paper, there's, like, there wasn't even a Swiffer. I guess for wiping their back ends with Swiffers, I don't know. But the point being is I was like, "What the hell? Have people lost their minds?" And I was like, "You know what?" And I had a moment of panic, and then I was like, "You know what? I grew up dirt ass poor."
mhm.
Like, I'm not panicked. I know how to do poor. I know how to
Right.
do poor well, right?
Mhm.
I could live off a bag of beans or a container of oatmeal for a really long time. Like, I do not have, I don't panic at all in those
Right.
situations. But, I was like, God, this is insane.
It
It made me think about, like, just like, and then I got really dark too there for a moment. Do you remember, like, the 70s movie or late 60s movie, early 70s, like Soylent Green, like
I
people
knew
dropping
you
dead
were
in the
gonna
street?
ask that. That is so bizarre. I knew you were gonna ask that. Yes. They're eating people. Yes.
I love that movie still to this
Oh
day.
my god. You didn't
I was
know
in boarding
back
school
then?
when I saw that movie, and it freaked the hell out of me, actually. I was like, "Good lord, this is
Oh,
crazy." I think I'll stay right here in South Dakota in the middle of nowhere where I don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
right. People driving around and eating people because, well, I guess there are no people. So, yeah, there's no food. Yeah. Maybe you can just give a quick synopsis to our younger listening audience of Soylent Green.
Oh, Soylent Green takes place in New York. I don't know. It's an apocalypse, right? Post-apocalyptic movie, and all the people, there's just dead bodies all over in the street, and actually a bunch of homeless people, I think, weren't they? Like,
Yeah.
or they're presumed to be homeless. Like, they're just like people on the streets, and the government would have big, huge, what do you call them? dump trucks just come and scoop people up and carry them off to the Soylent Green factory.
Right.
And they're feeding the rest of the world, the wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
with the with the bodies of the people who are poor, which is interesting that 40 years later here we are. Like I see pictures of Los Angeles. I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. The houselessness problem was not that big in Los Angeles. It's huge. It's heartbreaking. So heartbreaking.
Well, there's many reasons for that, but one of them, I mean, you see a whole line of streets of people living in RVs and little campers too that have nowhere to live other than in their little RV. And again, if we had political will, and I think media has a big part of that too, because they're putting us up against each other all the time, where we could be good allies and good neighbors with people, but all of a sudden they hit that greed button, and people freak out because they're not going to have what they think they deserve or need, and the world goes mad. But that's the way the top 1% likes it, and I'm really disgusted, and have been for a long time, with our media. I want to, they don't tell the story that's really happening.
No, they bend the truth. And I think part of it is also like, I talk a lot about this, to talk about like what it means to be a good relative, talk about like our indigenous principles and our indigenous ways of thinking. We sent to Earth here by the Creator to, with a set of original instructions. Those original instructions are those values and those directions that guide us to how to walk this path and be good relatives to one another and to share the resources we have, right? Because we are really like that is, I think, one of the things we forget about. Like the pandemic actually taught us some real critical lessons, like, that we are literally related to one another on this planet. There isn't something like, that can happen all the way over in China, or all the way over in Russia, or all the way over in the Ukraine, or somewhere else in, the Sudan or African country that isn't going to impact us in some way. Like until we sort of kind of get that through our heads and understand, like, we have a responsibility to not take care of just what's at our front door. We have a responsibility to take care of, the smoke that's on the horizon and a few other things. Like we have to do a better job of that. Otherwise we all perish, because my ability to survive is directly tied to your ability to be well and healthy and well-being. So if I don't fundamentally understand that, we're going to all perish.
Well, and the funny thing too is when you hear people talking about, global warming and all the things that are happening to Mother Earth, they're acting like the Earth will be gone. It's us, the people will be gone.
The planet's still going to be here. Yeah, right. Like we're going to be the dinosaurs that whatever generation talks about earlier. Like, oh, remember there used to be human beings here,
right?
There were.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. I saw a video, and maybe it was one late night on TikTok, but I saw a video well done about what would happen in the next 100 years if people passed away to the planet. And of course, there would be big problems with the nuclear plants. But it would take they wouldn't even know we were here 500 or 1,000 years ago. I mean, that's how brittle, I guess, that the human race can be, and what we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's just like crazy stuff. Like I don't know, like sometimes I stay up way too late. Like, like I'm the opposite of the person that stays up late at night watching like those things on television, where you see like the animals in the cages and a few other things, and then that's like crazy, like, end of the world stuff that's on there.
Right.
I read like the media articles, and I read the stuff on in like, my Apple News and stuff like that. And one of the craziest stories I heard read recently was of like how, like billionaires around the planet, like, there's this group of billionaires that are all obsessed with like amassing, all the goods and all the money and all the things so that they can live longer. They're trying to. There's one guy who's like spending all of his money and he doesn't work. He takes like 100 or 500 pills a day, and he takes all this stuff, and he's like trying to extend his life to like 150. I'm like, good luck, dude. If you're 150 years old and like there's no earth left, like, and you have all that money, what are you gonna do with it? Like, if they're it's crazy, people have lost their minds, I think, sometimes, and I think that's what money will do to you. And I think that's like specifically, if you haven't tethered yourself to the land, which is what our individual instructions tell us. We were born on a specific place on the earth, and we have responsibilities to the earth, responsibilities to each other. And when we lose that North Star, we're lost.
Absolutely. Wow. Dr. Staley, we'll end it at that. Thank you so much. Great conversation as always. We're talking to Dr. Staley, CEO and president of Native American Community Clinic here in Minnesota and the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. Really appreciate your insight and great conversation as always.
You go on, man.
Hey, we'll be right back with Wendy in our Sacred Animals section. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us. Getting bus and train information in your language just got easier. Customers who call Metro Transit at 612-373-3333 are able to select language options at the start of the call. Access Next Trip, their automated real-time schedule information tool, and other Metro Transit assistance by calling 612-373-3333. For more information about other transit informational tools, visit metrotransit.org/tools.
In recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, this message is brought to you by Strong Hearts Native Helpline, a culturally appropriate domestic and sexual violence helpline for Native American and Alaska Natives. Advocates provide free support and advocacy 24/7. Call or text 1-844-762-8483, that's 1-844-7-NATIVE, or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org. Safe, anonymous, confidential, 24/7.
No matter if you're eating out or cooking something at home, eatlocalminnesota.com has you covered with a list of locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. Locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oil and vinegar since 2009. Reintroduce yourself to all the many flavors by tasting before you buy. From darker white balsamic to cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil from all over the world, there is something for everyone. Vinaigrette, located at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for fun. Enjoy the fantastic food like their pizzas, burgers, and sandwiches, the best bowling in Minnesota, their wildly popular outdoor patio, great drink specials, all the big games on their numerous screens, and it's the perfect place for your next private event, even large gatherings for over 200. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for everyone. Have fun at the Park Tavern, Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, I want to introduce my awesome and beautiful wife, Wendy. Wendy's been an animal advocate for many years and learned so much over the years, and I'm willing. I'm ready, willing.
Ready and willing.
Yeah, to hear some more. So take it away, Wendy.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Local.
Yeah, local. Yeah, so last week I was telling everybody that a group of us went to meet with Mayor Carter's office. We got to meet with his executive assistant. His name was John. And what we did was we presented an ordinance which we'd like to get passed in St. Paul called Fur-Free St. Paul.
Wow.
Yeah, so this ordinance already passed in Minneapolis. So I want to start by saying, and I want to be very clear about this, that the fur-free St. Paul does not include fur used in Native American tradition and ceremony. So I
Right.
just want to say that. And the language in the bill depicts that. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is people who wear like luxurious fur coats, right? And these animals are kept in horrific conditions their whole lives, and kept in the small cages, and they can't move around and everything like that. And, you know, they're hardly fed, they're hardly taken care of. And then when it's time to use their coats, usually how they do it is by anal electrocution.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to say that, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because that does not ruin their fur, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Right. So I'm going to read a little bit here from the Humane Society of the United States. Going fur free because animals need their fur coats more than we do. And we already know that we have so many beautiful synthetic things that we could use and what we could wear that look really great. You know, so on fur factory farms around the world, millions of rabbits, foxes, mink, chinchillas, and raccoon dogs spend their entire lives in cramped cages, deprived of the ability to engage in natural behaviors, only to be cruelly gassed or electrocuted at the end. In the wild, animals are caught in crippling leg hold traps for days without food or water. These archaic traps are indiscriminate and often maiming and killing non-target animals. Like your dog goes for a walk. And we've had plenty of, remember, Robert, we met that guy whose dog got caught in one of those traps and killed. Yeah.
Ugh.
So these, they do kill non-target animals. So what we want to do, and it's all in the name of fashion, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Humane Society of the United States, with your support, we are leading the fight to pass laws and secure corporate commitments on this critical issue. Together, we can create a fur-free future. Dillard's is the last remaining major department store in the United States that still sells fur. The Humane Society of the United States has tried to work with Dillard's on the fur issue for over a decade. It is needlessly cruel and bad business decision. So you could go on the Humane Society of the United States, their fur-free page, and you could sign the petition. And I think it's important for Dillard's to understand that. But consumers' concern for animal welfare is the leading leading fashion brands across the country to move away from coats and fur. Neiman Marcus, Macy's, Nordstrom's, Gucci, Prada, Chanel, Coach, Burberry, Versace, Michael Kors, Armani, and In Style magazine are just some of the companies that have announced fur-free policies. In 2019, California became the first state in the nation to ban fur sales, and in 2021, Israel, bless their hearts and let's pray for them, became the first country. Norway, Belgium, Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and many other countries have banned fur products. It's clear that this unnecessary cruelty has no future in fashion.
Right.
Yeah, and you could go on the Humane Society of the United States and you could view, their humane shopping guide, so that you know whether you're buying items from people who want, to ban fur.
What was the name of that store?
Oh, there's lots of them. The ones that I just mentioned.
No, the one that they were trying to get a hold
Oh,
of.
Dillard's.
I've
never heard of them either. I don't know where they're based out of. I
Okay.
have no idea. And I don't know the year of this article either. So maybe they have gone so far. They have done it. I have to go back and research that. So yeah, 100 million animals are killed for fur each year. Approximately 85% of these animals come from the fur factory farms.
Right.
The rest are trapped in the wild. Yeah.
factory farms.
Mhm.
Here we go.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Not only is it bad for the animals, it's also bad for the environment as well.
On and on and on. And it's all greed. And it's like
Mhm.
multinational corporations
Yeah.
that a lot of times own these factory farms. And
Yep, and a lot of them are here in the United States, and they're owned by China. Yeah, so 300 brands and retailers have adopted fur-free policies and are now offering warm and innovative alternatives instead.
how
Like I
many?
said before, over 300. Yeah.
Just had to put the applause up.
So this is the one thing that really shocked me that I did not know. 100 animals or more are killed for one single fur coat.
100.
Yep. Because they could only use
Right,
parts
certain
of the pelts of their fur to sew together to make a fur coat. So 100 animals are used to do a
Crazy.
single coat. I can't even remember this. I'm going to tell this story.
Oh.
It was like I'm going to say 1983. 1983. Okay, I had my big hair.
Yeah, a lot of hairspray.
A lot of hairspray, my big hair.
Aquanet.
I don't think I used Aquanet, but I used
come
something like that, right? But furs were really big back then.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom for my birthday. What year did I say it was? 1982. So I was 21. Yep. And my mom bought me a raccoon fur coat. Raccoon fur coat, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful, I love it, thank you, Mom. And I did, like, I did not know anything about anything back then. I was like a stupid idiot, but anyway.
Oh.
I had the fur on and I wore it and it kept me warm, and I was like so, felt I was like so fashionable with this coat on, and I was in my car and I'm driving down the road and I stop at a light and the car in front of me has a bumper sticker on it. And the bumper sticker had the picture of the cutest raccoon you'd ever want to see in your life, with one tear coming down of its eye.
Come on.
And it said, "Every fur hurts."
What the?
And I said to myself, oh my God. And I started to cry right then and there. Like it hit me, like I made the connection that this thing that I'm wearing came from an animal's body.
Right.
Right. And I remember, like, it was cold. It was winter. I remember that was it. I took the coat off in the car and I never wore it again. I never ever wore it again. And then how many years later, Robert? Remember, I asked my mom for the coat. Remember that? How many years? I was here in Minnesota. So many, many years. I got the coat from my mom and I brought it to a organization that uses old fur coats, and they cut it up and they use it for orphaned animals. So the little orphaned animals will use the fur for that. And we were able to use it as a tax deduction. So there you go.
That's it. Hey, Wendy, thanks again. You're listening to Native Roots Radio, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thanks, Wendy.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Now.